Hi, everyone. I'm Morgan Andrews. I play on the women's soccer team here at Notre Dame. I was told to give a speech about myself and about why I chose the University of Notre Dame. I'll be completely honest. The only way I really know how to explain who I am to you is by telling you stories. I'm the youngest of 3 children. My oldest brother, Mike, is a junior high English teacher in inner city Boston. Matt, only a year younger than Mike, is a Green Beret in the United States Army. You know, they still fight about whose job is tougher. My mom is a social worker, and my dad a salesman for a small company back home in New Hampshire. I grew up always wanting to do what my 2 older brothers did. When they joined a sports team, I did too. And when they wanted to do business chair races down Ball Hill, well, I was always up for the test run. No matter how many bloody knees and scarred elbows and busted lips I got, I still wanted to be like my brothers and do what they did because I always trusted them to show me the right way. I still do. After school, they taught me how to swim and how to punch. They even showed me how to play soccer with flipped couches and broomsticks as our boundaries. Their energy always seemed to last just long enough until my dad got home from a long day at work. No matter how tired my dad was, he would always hop back in the car and bring me to the local indoor field down the street. There was a man named Gary who worked there, and he loved the game just as much as my dad did, believe it or not. One night, we got to the field later than usual, and Gary was closing the building. Feeling a bit deflated, my dad and I turned back for the car. But only after a few steps, we heard Gary calling after us. It went something like, "Yo, you guys getting lazy on me or what?" Well, that night, Gary gave us the spare keys that turned on the lights. His shift was done, and he was headed home. As long as we were there before he closed the doors, we were allowed to use the field. So my dad and I carried on the tradition of kicking the ball around through my middle school and high school careers. I was always so happy to be able to escape to the field with my dad or to drive an hour to practice with my mom every day, especially since middle school wasn't really filled with much but a mouthful of braces. It didn't really get exciting until my 8th grade year when I was offered my first full scholarship to college. It was a difficult process, and I was verbally committed to 3 different universities during my high school career. High school students have a lot to think about, you know. What college am I going to? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? What prom dress am I going to wear? So when stressed, I would always find myself hiking with my 5 closest friends. And one night, we decided that we were going to wake up at 3 the next morning and make it to the peak for sunrise. Instead of knocking my snooze button like every other day, I was thrilled for our new adventure, despite how dark it was outside. With headlamps strapped on and breakfast in our backpacks, we started the climb and didn't stop until we reached the peak. We didn't say much during the climb. We didn't have to. We took the opportunity to listen to the life around us when our heavy breathing had slowed down. It was amazing. At first, I was scared of bears being on the trail. But then I soon realized that we were experiencing something that others weren't, and that we wouldn't have if we had slept in. It was the peace that I needed to make my decision for college. 20 minutes after we made it to the top, the sun rose, and it was as if everything that we just saw as dark blues and grays were painted over by warm pinks, reds, and oranges. At that moment, I was flooded with euphoria, a feeling that you can only grasp when you experience that moment for yourself. It only made it better that I was surrounded by my best friends. A few weeks later, it came time to make my decision on what college I was going to attend. I had to ask my mom, the one woman that I could always rely on, one question before I made my decision. We were driving home from practice one night, and I asked, "Mom, how'd you know what you wanted to be when you were my age?" And she took a moment, and she said, "Well, I didn't know what I wanted to be. You know, I still don't know. But all I knew is that I wanted to help people." My mom and I are a lot alike. She has taught me to help myself and those around me. So that night, I made my decision. I know you're probably asking what all these stories have to do with why I chose the University of Notre Dame, but for me, the answer is quite simple. Everyone knows that Notre Dame has the books and the soccer, but those who know Notre Dame understand that it is much more than that. Notre Dame is the teaching of new games, the key to the lights, the mountain on the way to the sunrise, and the help when you need it the most. However, I found out the most important part of these stories only after attending this university for the past year. I found a community who pushes me to be better. I have found people who not only turn on the light for me, but then show me how to do it for myself. And I have found friends and teammates who climb alongside me to see the full beauty at the top of the mountain. On my last day of high school, my favorite English teacher, Mrs. Fish, after hearing my many stories, gave me a book that I now carry with me today. I carry it with me everywhere I go. And from it, I drew a quote that says, "It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting." I want to thank you because with your help, the beginning of my dream has become a reality. We're just going to have to keep climbing to find out the rest.